Hello, everybody. We are back, and this is the official 2021 season fantasy recap. Welcome, Mark Altman.
Thanks, Cole Boston Altman. I'm happy to be here.
So today we're just going to be talking a little about the surprises of this year, a few disappointments, just a recap, and just some players to look out for, some breakout players for next year. So one player I really wanted to open this up for, and this is a player that really disappointed me this year, but will he bounce back to his top 25 level, and that's Allen Robinson. Do you think next year with Justin Fields, once he gets into the flow, do you think he bounces back to what he was going to be, or do you think he remains nothing?
It's a tough one, Cole. I mean, part of the problem is, first of all, Darnell Mooney really has emerged as a solid receiver for the Bears, so he's a factor. I don't know. I think Allen Robinson may need to move on. And that's not to say he still doesn't have talent left. But, man, I'll tell you, prior to this year, I was always amazed that he put up good stats with no good quarterbacks in that offense. So I think for me, the answer to that question is I want to see where Allen Robinson is. If he is still with the Bears, I'm a little skeptical that he bounces back. I don't think he's going to have this bad of a year. But if he goes to a team with kind of a better surrounding cast and offense, I could see him bouncing back.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know how much I love Darnell Mooney. I think he's going to be great next year.
He doesn't begin with a C, though.
What do you mean?
Like the receivers you love are supposed to begin with a
J.
Oh, so it should be Jarnell Mooney.
Jarnell Mooney, Justin Jefferson, Jooper Cup.
And Jerry Jeudy.
And Jerry Jeudy. But yeah, I mean, on another note, Debo Samuel, like we saw some huge disappointments this year, but Debo Samuel was merely a waiver pickup going into the year, and then he broke out as one of the top guys in fantasy. Like, where do we go from there to next year? Like, does he keep this up with Trey Lance? Because I'm assuming Trey Lance takes the job.
It's a fabulous question, Cole. As a matter of fact, what's tricky about Debo Samuel is, to me, he's just an elite offensive weapon in NFL. Like in the regular NFL, he's an elite offensive weapon. They're using him so much in the running game. And what I think is going to happen sometimes with Debo Samuel next year is he's going to have games where he has very few targets, and he might have games where he only has like 10, 12 points because he's running the ball. I don't know. Like, it's tricky. I love him. I'm a huge fan. I would want him on my fantasy team, but I think Brandon Ayuk's going to get better. Elijah Mitchell looks like the real deal at running back. So I just wish I had a better idea of how consistently they're going to use him in what ways.
Is he still top 10?
I think he is. Just because he's such a dynamic weapon and he can come out of the backfield on traditional runs, he can run reverses, he can be split out, he can be a deep threat. So he's just got so many uses. I definitely think he's top 10.
Okay. I don't really have anything to say that you didn't say.
Well, that makes me feel good. So I really captured the spirit of Debo Samuel.
He scratches just outside my top 10 just for the fact that, like you said, he could have a lot of games that have where he has very little targets.
Some, not a lot.
And Tyree Kill, before we had watched the divisional game versus the Bills, he was outside my top 10. He is no longer outside of my top 10. He just reminded the world who Tyree Kill is. He is so fast and so talented that, like, how can you count him out of that group when he's just, you can't.
You can't. Well, Cole, I want to switch to running back for a little bit here, and I want to bring up two guys that were top 5 picks this year that I have serious doubts moving forward. And I'm going to do the obvious one first in Ezekiel Elliott. You know, I really think Ezekiel Elliott might have like nude pictures of Jerry Jones because the way they force the ball to him and give him so many touches when his average yards per carry was pretty much poor all year and Tony Pollard outplayed him. So I have to tell you, I wouldn't want to go near Ezekiel Elliott next year. Tony Pollard is going to be back with the Cowboys. I don't see why he wouldn't. And I have some serious doubts about the effectiveness of Zeke going forward. So before I go to my second one, what are your thoughts on Zeke?
Unfortunately, I 100% disagree with you.
Really? 100? Not even like 80%?
Not even 80%. The thing is that in week 5, Ezekiel Elliott hurt his, no, week 6, Ezekiel Elliott hurt his knee. And we both saw the numbers he was putting up before that. He was putting up 20-plus fantasy points. He was a high-end RB1.
That was the touchdowns, though. It wasn't the yardage per carry.
It was the receiving plus the touchdowns. Like, he hurt his knee. He almost sat out for a couple games because Mike McCarthy wanted him to, and then he just stopped being a real impact in fantasy. But Ezekiel Elliott, fully healthy, I want him on my team all the time. I love Ezekiel Elliott. I think that he's a competitor. I think he's a winner.
I'm going to let you draft him ahead of me.
Please. I would love to take him.
Okay, and the second guy is Derrick Henry. And I bring up Derrick Henry because here's the thing. Derrick Henry has had so many carries the last 4 years. I mean, he had a major injury this year. He has so much mileage in that tank. And is he an amazing back? He's a big bruising. Of course, if Derrick Henry's healthy, he's good. But it's rare we see running backs in the NFL sustain the kind of production Derrick Henry has had. And I have to tell you that if I had, let's figure this out, Cole. If you have the first 3 picks in the draft next year, and you're thinking of taking a running back, I'm not sure I would take Derrick Henry.
Well, let me ask you. Who are you taking over Derrick Henry? Of course, Jonathan Taylor, but who else?
Well, I think it's definitely Jonathan Taylor. And I'm trying to get my head back in all the different running
Would you
backs.
take Kamara over him?
Yeah, well, that's the one I was just thinking about. I mean, I'd have to see what the Saints' offense looks like heading into the season. I still don't know what Michael Thomas is going to be. I want to see what the quarterbacks is. Jameis Winston going to come back healthy? So Kamara would be an option. McCaffrey. See, the thing about McCaffrey...
He's a walking injury. He's made out of glass.
Well, that's the thing, right? So you have the injury risk with McCaffrey, but I feel like we're forgetting someone. Isn't there one other person?
Dalvin Cook.
No. I'm trying to think of the elite backs.
Leonard Fournette. Let me take a look. Well, while I'm looking...
So anyway, my point is Jonathan Taylor would be first. Then it's between Kamara, Henry, McCaffrey... definitely not Dalvin Cook. I'm so sick of Dalvin Cook getting hurt.
Eckler.
Yeah, Eckler. Even Mixon.
Montgomery.
No, not much. I wouldn't put Montgomery in there. But Mixon is even in that mix. Aaron Jones is in that mix. I'm saying I don't think Derrick Henry is the automatic lock that he's been heading into the last 2 seasons.
I agree. I mean,
no yawning on the set.
I'm sorry.
I've
had a long week. I've had midterms.
So Cole did get boosted, so he's a little...
I just got the booster.
I'm fatigued.
I'm fatigued. I'm a bit sleepy. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't know if Henry's in my top 3. I have to wait till closer to the season to see what goes on in that Titans organization.
So I want to bring up a name that you and I argue about a little bit. I want to switch to tight end. And I leave this season, when we're talking about tight ends, Cole, well, I think we agree. Travis Kelce, still elite, number 1.
No. Mark Andrews.
Okay, fine. Interchangeable. Andrews and Kelce, the top 2, right? We agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So Andrews and Kelce, the top 2. Coming into this season, we would have said Darren Waller and TJ Hawkinson were the next 2, right? Coming into the season?
Heading into the season, I think it was Kelce, Waller, Kittle.
Oh, and Kittle.
Then Andrews.
Right. So, but I'm saying we just said Andrews and Kelce at the top 2. So the next kind of 3 tier would be Waller, Kittle, Hawkinson, kind of.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I'm going to put 2 guys in the discussion, and you might mock me for this.
It better not be who I think it is.
It's the first one is Dalton Schultz.
Oh, don't be Dallas Goedert.
And the second one is Dallas Goedert. Because those 2, Dallas Goedert, once Zach Ertz left, I mean, Dallas Goedert had some huge games down the stretch.
He's terrible.
And he and Devonta Smith were basically the 2 top weapons on the Eagles. And as Jalen Hurts gets better, I absolutely think Dallas Goedert, at minimum, is in the discussion with TJ Hawkinson. And I feel the same way about Dalton Schultz. I mean, Dalton Schultz was such a go-to guy. I mean, come on. We both had CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb would disappear in so many games down the stretch, and he would continue to go to Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz, I see skepticism within myself that he continues this once Blake Jarwin comes back. Blake Jarwin got hurt for the whole year, for the 3rd year in a row.
We're really bringing up... Last podcast,
Blake Jarwin was projected to be better than Schultz this year.
We wasted time on Jerry Jeudy, and now we're bringing up Blake Jarwin.
You underestimate the Jarwin power, okay?
You're missing something here. You want to know what you're missing?
What am I missing?
You're missing a tell about my tight ends. I absolutely love tight ends whose first three letters of their name are DAL.
I can tell.
No, let's talk about that.
Do you like Dalton Keene?
No, that's where I draw the line. Good call. The right call.
Do you like Dallas Clark?
I love Dallas Clark. He was a beast for the Colts.
Do you like the Dallas Mavericks?
I do. I love Luka.
I mean, Luka's pretty solid.
But the DAL combination is pretty solid.
Do you like Dale from Young Sheldon?
Nah. No.
That's where the DAL goes downhill.
Yep. So you like the J receivers. I like the DAL tight ends.
You sure do.
Yep.
So a few guys I want to bring up, and I want to hear your opinion. The first three wide receivers off the board, in my opinion, next year, and I know you're going to roll your eyes at my top three.
Wait, is it?
No.
Wait. Is number one Cooper Kupp?
No.
Okay.
My number one's Jamar Chase.
Okay.
My number two is Cooper Kupp. My number three is Justin Jefferson. The reason I have Chase above Kupp is that Kupp, I think, takes a little bit of a drop off once Woods comes back. Yet I still see him being top range, but Chase doesn't really have anyone competing with him. I mean, Higgins is great. Higgins is gonna get his touches. Boyd is gonna get his touches. Uzomah sucks. Mixon is gonna get his touches. Pirine is gonna get his touches. But Chase is so dynamic. He is like Tyree Kill. He is like Devonte Adams, where you know what you're gonna get, and he is that top guy. And Chase is my one. Kupp is my two. Jefferson is Jefferson. Hit the gritty.
Well, I have a question for you. And this is a question I don't think prior to a fantasy draft, we've asked a question like this in years. And here's my question. Do you draft Cooper Kupp ahead of a stud running back? Because he's such a lock. Cole, have we ever had to ask that question in the last few years?
Since Megatron retired, no.
Right.
My answer is still no, because I'd still take Jonathan Taylor over.
Let's take Jonathan Taylor. Besides Jonathan Taylor, would you consider taking Cooper Kupp with McCaffrey's injury, Kamara in the Saints offense, Derrick Henry's workload? I mean, I think it's in the discussion.
It's definitely in the discussion. I really still struggle with taking him over Eckler. I still struggle with taking him over Henry, and I still struggle with taking him over Kamara. Just because of Eckler. Maybe not Henry. I would take him over Henry, but Eckler and Kamara have such big receiving games, and that's so valuable for running backs. Like, what's more valuable in your opinion? 25 a game from a receiver or 20 a game from a running back?
Well, you're asking me in a year where I got burned so frequently by running backs. Took Dalvin Cook in three leagues, blew up in my face. Took Saquon Barkley in two leagues, which just makes me an idiot. And so what it comes down to is why I'm suggesting this about Cooper Kupp is because you have a guarantee. And my rule of thumb in fantasy football is that first pick has to be an absolute lock.
It can't be someone like, ooh, it can't be that guy.
Well, I say this. You would definitely take Cooper Kupp. If you were like, let's say the fifth or sixth pick, wouldn't you take Cooper Kupp over like Dalvin Cook?
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I think you would.
I would take any of the top three receivers over Dalvin Cook.
That's a fair point. That
Maybe not Jefferson, but definitely the other two.
As far as your question about Jefferson, Chase, and Kupp, look, at the end of the day, if you're lucky enough to get any of those three guys, you're in good shape. They're all studs. And what's crazy to me is that Devonte Adams, who is, in my opinion, coming into this season, was as much of a lock wide receiver as there is in fantasy football. He hasn't even done anything wrong, and he's fallen to fourth simply because Chase, Jefferson, and Kupp are so dominant.
I mean, I said this to you week 17, and you were like, no, week 16, and you were like, bullshit. But
oh, we don't swear on the right call.
Excuse me.
This isn't PG-13.
I apologize to the viewers.
When YouTube asked the question, is this appropriate for 13 and over?
We're going to be lying. We're going to be lying.
Right, okay.
Well,
it's not how I raised you.
So You said it was Bull. No swear.
Okay.
You said it was Bull. That 11 for 266, and how many touchdowns do you have? 2? Yeah, he had 2. No.
Are we talking about Jamar Chase?
Yeah, no, he had 3 touchdowns.
Okay.
So, Jamar Chase, like I said, that performance told more about what to come than 1 week. Jamar Chase showed how amazing he is. Like, just look at his route running. He's always open.
See, the problem is Devonte Adams, I think, is probably every bit as talented as those guys. The problem is in Cincinnati, you've got a ton of weapons. In the Rams, I mean, heck, with Beckham there, if Robert Woods is healthy, you got Higbee, you got a bunch of weapons. And when you look at Justin Jefferson, you don't have a ton. You've got Adam Thielen, who's really good. And then you look at Green Bay, you've got Davonte Adams and then Alan Lazard. I mean,
I think you meant to say Alan Lazard.
Right, exactly. So that's part of the problem. Like, I don't think now, in all fairness, they have Aaron Jones, who's a really elite running back coming out of the backfield. So, they do have weapons, but I just think Devonte Adams, they just don't have that second guy to take some of the attention off him.
They don't. And that's what separates him from the top guys in fantasy. And I want to move on to one more thing before we end our podcast, and I can go do my homework and just relax and recover.
You haven't done your homework yet?
No.
Why are we doing this prior to responsibilities before fun?
we had dinner, and then you said prepare for the podcast.
I should have asked.
I got to do I'll do it. I have like 20 minutes of homework.
Okay. Which means 40. Go ahead.
It means 20.
Okay.
Who are the top 3 QBs for you off the board? And I mean, Mahomes and Allen have to be there.
Yeah, I mean, here's what's different for me now. Josh Allen's my number 1. He's passed Mahomes in fantasy-wise simply because of the running threat.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. The way, now, I will say one thing about Buffalo. Buffalo hasn't really had a running game. Devin Singletary kind of emerged towards the end of the year, but if Buffalo drafts a running back and they have a guy, that could take some rushing attempts away from Josh Allen that he currently has.
It could.
But Josh Allen's 1. Pat Mahomes has to be 2 because he's Pat Mahomes. Joe Burrow, to me, with those weapons, has to be 3. And
over Herbert?
Yeah, and Herbert would be 4 for me.
Yeah.
And I would say that, to your point you made on our previous podcast, number 5 would be a toss-up between Brady if he comes back for another year, Russell Wilson, depending on where he ends up, like what team he's on. Those would probably be the next 2 guys for me.
How can we not put Dak Prescott in that mix?
Well, he's in the top 10 for fantasy, but he's not that high.
How do we not put Lamar Jackson? Like, Lamar Jackson is honestly, I think, the most disrespected, underrated player in sports fantasy football.
I would argue that I think Lamar Jackson may even regress a little bit more, not as bad as he was playing at the end of the year, but not as good as he was playing earlier, because let's face it, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are probably going to be back. And again, it's just the comment I made about Josh Allen. If those guys are healthy and they're getting carries, Lamar Jackson's not going to run as much.
Oh, whatever.
No, he won't.
He's still going to get 15 carries a game. He's still going to...
He's not going to get 15 carries.
Fine, 10.
I don't even know if he'll get 10.
He's so dynamic.
He'll get like maybe 7.
Okay, let's agree that he, on average, will get 8 carries for 65 yards.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Fine, 55 yards.
Maybe 53.
Okay. So...
52.
52. He throws for 200 yards passing, throws for a touchdown. Right there, without counting the running, that's 11.5 points. Plus the running, that's 17. And then that's assuming he only throws for 200 yards and a touchdown.
I'm not even sure Lamar Jackson's their starting. Maybe Tyler Huntley.
Oh,
the job.
My God. This is
Tyler Huntley.
Oh, Lord. Jeez. God, now I believe...
What a great job by Tyler Huntley.
Now I believe people when they say they're injecting us with 5G chips with these boosters, because I have to be hallucinating. Because... No. What's your final take on
I'll tell you, well, my final take
breakout player of the year?
Well, my final take is Tyler Huntley's not even my favorite Tyler. It's Tyler Conklin.
Ty Conklin?
Ty Conklin. I mean, what a great... My breakout player for 2022? My breakout player for 2022? Wow, that's tough. At any position?
At any position.
you're not expecting this answer. You ready?
If it's a dumb answer, I'm shutting off the podcast.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Justin Fields.
Okay. And why?
Justin Fields.
Why?
Because he started to emerge at the end of the year. They were such a disaster the way they were coached, and Andy Dalton, and they're moving guys in and out. And I just think Justin Fields showed some poise and some momentum at the end of the year. And with his running ability, like, he's not going to take the Bears to the Super Bowl, but he's going to be a very viable number 2 fantasy quarterback. And I think he has a ton of potential. I think you're going to see him start to fulfill why he was drafted at that position next year.
Yeah, I actually agree with that take. I mean, I guess we're going Bears style today, but my breakout player of the year, is next year is Darnell Mooney. Like, I think that
kind of already broke out.
I mean, I guess. I mean, he may have broken out as a top 30 receiver, but I'm talking top 15. Like, Darnell Mooney, that offense is going to be revamped. David Montgomery, honestly, in my opinion, you know how much I love him. He's the most underrated running back in fantasy. Like, he's a top 5 back when he's healthy. Over Cook.
I just want to leave you with this thought. You're missing a little hint again. In the same way I like tight ends with DAL, I like quarterbacks with JUS.
Fields, do you like Justin Herbert?
Yep. And I do not like Justin Upton in baseball.
What's wrong with Justin Upton?
Old, strikes out too much.
Oh, my God.
So I draw the line at JUSs in baseball.
Do you like Justin McCafferty?
He's a good kid.
He is a good kid.
He's a good kid. I do
Solid
like
basketball player.
Yeah,
Solid basketball player.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for joining us on The Right Call. We will see you next fantasy season.